we started our Tom Swift journey, which also, of course, connected to our Nancyverse journey, um, by watching his first appearance. And can I say that Tian Richards is going to be the next big CW star? I'm calling it now. I'm uplifting it. I'm uplifting him. He's so great as Tom Swift. I mean, his entrance alone into Nancy Drew's episode, like not like they're trying to get rid of a kitchen demon. She's like, I summoned something. Door opens. He walks in with the wind. So extra, so dramatic, just everything you need from him.
It's so refreshing when you see an actor playing a character or an actor or any performer play a character and they fully embody that character. They know who that character is, and you know that they're the only person who could play that character.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing him in that role, it's is just like stars aligned, kismet. He's so good in that role. Even from the beginning, when he didn't have his whole show to back him up, he just had that one episode, like he had his moment. It's so perfect.
Yeah, that's it. He was show stealing from his first appearance, and it just felt like he fully personified this version of the character. Because I know in source material, the Tom Swift character is big in Nancy Drew and that they pop up from time to time, but this was such a unique version of the character, and I totally get that. What you said, it felt like nobody else could play that from his very first appearance, and throughout the rest of the episode. I'm not familiar with Nancy Drew yet. We'll change that. But throughout the rest of the episode, it was all about him. And I don't mean that in the way it was written. It just like whatever way the camera, the material, it all gravitated towards him. It was an excellent performance, but also an incredibly captivating character. And you can see why the crumbs were laid for a spin-off off the bat, because after that, there was no going back.
No, not because he's just so perfect. I'm sorry, guys. I found my new favorite CW character. I love Tom so much, and I think it's because there's such a great balance of. I'm really into characters that have a great balance of humor and vulnerability, and he has that in spades. There's so much charisma on screen with Tian. Like I loved. Like first of all, he's a man who's entered. Like Tom Swift's a man who's entered a town he don't know anything about, and he's already like commanding attention and saying things that probably like, sir, like you commenting on her outfits, like being like, you got that hat at a thrift store, so I would not be taking your advice. um, and I liked that him and Nancy are sort of like uncomfy friends. She's so irritated by his whole existence in parts of the episode because he just refuses to believe in the supernatural. And then finally he has to get on the train. And they sort of annoy one another, but they have so many like little small great conversations that lead to growth for both of them. Like they learn from each other in that 45 minutes. They did a lot in Tom Swift's introduction to the Nancyverse. And it was compelling. And you're right. There's no way they couldn't have given him a spin-off series after that performance.
I know it was intended, like his appearance was intended as like a backdoor pilot or like I guess it wasn't really a backdoor pilot because we don't see his whole universe, we just see him. But that was the intention of the appearance. But even if that wasn't the intention and he just appeared in the show, there's no way that he wouldn't have been a fan favorite and been like we would have championed him. We would have wanted more of him. Like there's no way it wouldn't have led to more. Like he's just too good, the character and the actor, the whole thing. And I commend the writers too, because they like really laid the groundwork really well for the character.
They did. And the budget for the outfits was there. I love that he has an outfit for every occasion, and he didn't just mean that lightly. It's like, no, if we're switching the plan, I have a new outfit. That is just what's happening. Also, aside about Nancy, she loves a scarf. And I was like, I wasn't prepared for like how much she loves a scarf. I was like, oh, you have a new one in another day too, but okay. They're pretty.
It was a class, and it was nice the way we mentioned how they were kind of like uncomfy friends. From what we knew about Tom Swift from the trailers and everything going in, that was a very specific world, and it gave Dynasty vibes. It gave like realism, but also soapy. So to have that knowledge going into an episode of Nancy Drew and also know that Nancy Drew is going to be very supernatural, we talked about how those kind of tones kind of shouldn't work together. And yet this guy came in with all this story. That they did a great job building his backstory beforehand because we didn't know that much about it, and yet he came in fully established, fully comfortable in who and what he is with his company and his realistic version of the world, and it gels so well with their supernatural version of the world. It's hard to believe these same characters exist in the same universe, and they really played into that throughout the episode with both his comments about the style, with both her refusal to stop or to make him to give up to making him believe about the supernatural. They clashed so well, and that really became a great arc throughout, because then he eventually had to give into her ways and she eventually had to give into his ways, and they made a great team in the end. But they still went back to their own worlds, hers which is supernatural and his which is real with a side of soapy. And I think that was a great way of setting up a spin-off, because it let you know that it was going to be totally different.
For sure. I will say though, and since we're talking about Tom Swift's show, and we're going to be spoiler free with this, you guys, but we have seen the premiere episode. I would encourage you, if you're going to tune into Tom Swift, to revisit his episode on Nancy Drew. It'll give more context to some of the things that are being said in his show. Because I will say that after watching his Nancy Drew episode, I understood some of the arcs that they're going to be doing in his own show better, because they actually talked about it on Nancy Drew, and they didn't necessarily bring it up in the way that you would want in the premiere.
Yeah, they did some character work in Nancy Drew that laid the foundation for what we see in the pilot.
Yeah, and established that I believe this has come out, so like CW, don't hunt me down, but that they are in two separate time periods. And so now I'm like, oh, so are we going to reference back to certain things, like certain conversations or certain dialogue that he had in Nancy's show, but updated for like however many years have been between that moment and the time period that his show was set in.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that's why, and I believe I read this in an article. So again, CW, don't come for me. But the reason why cameos, crossovers, whatever, won't be as immediate in Tom Swift is because the two shows actually take place in two different years. Tom Swift is in our present, and Nancy Drew is in the past. So she hasn't reached his time period yet. Like it's
maybe they'll catch up with season 4.
Oh, maybe. I hope so, because I want Nick to appear on Tom Swift, because I love Nick and Tom. Their chemistry was so great as a George, watch out, girl. I don't know. But they were so cute. I would really want to see their friendship and Nick sort of being blown away by Tom's world if he were to have an episode on Tom Swift.
I would love to see the Drew crew. Is that what they're called?
I think so.
Them just walk into the mansion and be like, oh my goodness.
We've seen how he can kind of turn their world upside down. It would be pretty cool to see how they would turn his world upside down, and to get that mix of like technology meets supernatural on the other end of things. It's funny. It's hard to believe these two shows exist in the same universe now, having seen both episodes. But having seen the Nancy Drew episode with Tom Swift in it, you can see how they are connected. It's not a separate universe. It's without a doubt the same version of the character. And like as we know, they're more tied than you'd think. So it would be cool, kind of like a bit like, you know, the way Katie Keene was set so far in the future of the early seasons of Riverdale, and then they did do crossovers later in the season. It would be kind of cool if one or two of the characters popped up in a later episode of Tom Swift, but maybe didn't necessarily reference what was happening on Nancy Drew, so as not to give away Nancy Drew's endgame.
I'd like that. Petition for it to be Nancy and Nick.
Yes.
And just out of everybody, they were my favorite. Those two interacting with Tom are my favorite. What else about Tom Swift? I like that, like we're talking about CW being in a new era. I don't think we've done secret agent spy stuff Like, obviously he's not a secret agent, but he's very techy. There are a lot of gadgets. We're skulking around in dark corners. We're like, I have a solution, throws Barclay into the air. So Barclay can do whatever he needs to do. I'm not going to be able to follow the science, but I'm just going to trust them on that and believe and move forward for however they want to tell us Tom's going to be solving things, because I will not be the fan that is like, that doesn't make sense because such and such property that can't like coincide together. I was like, I just save that. It's okay. I will just do the fantasy science. It's fine.
Yeah, it's the correct mix of like absurdity, but like they ground it really well, I think. And for me, it's a really good successor. Is that the right word? Yeah, successor to Dynasty, because of like the excess and I mean, Fallon and Tom are kindred spirits. Like they would be frenemies. I was gonna say besties, but I think
It's
they
frenemies,
would.
you're right.
Yeah, they wouldn't get along at first or something. But yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, not that I was comparing it or like that's why I liked it because it felt like Dynasty, but I just like I saw that aspect of the CW, the one that I felt was we were losing in all of this. And I was like, oh, so there's still something here for me, but it is still so different enough in, I guess, a few other ways that makes it a really good representation of where the network could go. I guess that's more like global thinking than just thinking about the show itself. But those are my like big thoughts during watching the pilot.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the genre. It's a hard genre to pin down because there's so much in there. It's giving Dynasty, it's giving MacGyver. It's like, as we saw from the trailer, slight dash of superhero in that they just keep going big, big, big. There's so much in there, and we've never really had that kind of show on the CW before. In that you can't just pin it down from the offset. Of course, shows like Legends of Tomorrow get goofier as they went on. Riverdale got goofier as they went on. They played and experimented with more genres. But Tom Swift's like that from the offset, and that makes it very, very intriguing. There is something in it for everyone, and it ticked a lot of boxes for me. I was like, oh, I like this part of it. Oh, I like that part of it. And I'm very excited to see what kind of direction it goes in, because it literally does feel like one episode could be totally different from the next.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, because the team behind the show did say, it's steak, it's cotton candy, it's like anything you could possibly want is in this show. I mean, they have fast cars, they have great fashion, they have technology, they have mystery, we have science. I mean, there's space. Like, obviously, that the meteorite that he finds in Nancy Drew is going to come into play. Like, and of course, the conversation with his father. What's lovely about Tom Swift is also that, like, it's very fun, but it is getting into conversations that are important to have. Like, for instance, Tom Swift is gay. He's everything his father could want in a son, except his father, there's one thing that he doesn't care for, and it's that he's attracted to men. And you were like, I would hope in this series that his father moved past that, but if he doesn't, then the goal would be to get Tom to a place where he is secure in who he is, and how his father feels is how his father feels, but it bears no regard to how he is going to walk in the world. That is just going to have to be his father's issue. And I think that would be beautiful for people to watch.
And we see like Tom has a lot of confidence. He's very secure in his own body and his own everything about himself. He's like very secure in it, but we do see those cracks in the outside. We see what's really happening in the inside. And it's not just like all the hard shell that he puts on. He's not as confident as he leads on, which makes a really good dynamic character. And I think he also has a really good scene partner in Ashley Murray, whose character Zenzi does not let Tom get away with the BS.
No, and that's necessary for his character, as they showed, like they not foreshadowed, but sort of had an element of in Nancy Drew. Because he said he needs people in his life who challenge him. And we know he has Zenzi, and she challenges him.
And
Like
humbles him.
And humbles him. It's not Tom's way or the highway with her. She's like, I get what you're saying, but these are the facts. This is the reality. And this is what you have to deal with, not whatever is going on in Tom world. So I think that's lovely.
Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see where her character goes, because there's so much potential for Zenzi. But from the very beginning, I'm obsessed with her. It's exactly what I wanted to see Ashley doing post Riverdale verse. So 10s across the board for Ashley.
Yeah, because she told TV Line that what she loves about this role, she gets to be a woman. Like, she's not playing a teen girl. She's a woman who knows what she wants in life. She knows the future that she wants to chart a path toward. She gets to, as she put it, she's like, I get to be sexy. And that is like, and she loves that she gets to own that part of herself and express that part of herself on a show that also allows her to be a banging businesswoman. And so I'm just, this journey that Ashley is on, and we're going to be on with her for Zenzi, I'm excited for.
It's what she deserves.
Exactly.
Not that we didn't love Josie, but Josie didn't get the material she needed on either show.
That was a lovely way of putting it. Very neutral. But
I know,
correct.
I was like, what's the word choice here?
Like, being careful. But we do have to unpack like our spoiler-filled feelings when the episode finally drops, because it is an episode to talk about, for sure.
Definitely. And I can't wait to see it in its true form.
Yes.